Welcome back to another story time with me, Miss Maillard. Did you enjoy fry bread? Did you want to learn more about fry bread and Native American culture? Luckily, Noble Maillard included a lot of amazing information in the back of this book, and I wanted to be able to share that with you. So, this video, I will be going through almost every page of this book and giving you more cultural and historical background, and of course, some fun tips and tricks along the way, all about fry bread. If you want to learn more about Native American history, then keep watching. The story of fry bread is the story of Native Americans embracing community and culture in the face of opposition. It's commonly believed that the Navajo were the first to make fry bread over 150 years ago. The basic ingredients may appear simple: flour, salt, water, and yeast, yet the history behind this community anchor is anything but. Despite colonial efforts throughout American history to weaken tribal governments, fracture indigenous communities, and forcibly take ancestral lands, Native American culture has proven resilient. In strange, unfamiliar lands, exiled natives strive to retain those old traditions, and they created new ones, especially for food. Survival meant adapting, and those ancestors, isolated from familiar meats, fruits, and vegetables, got by with what they had. Without the familiar indigenous crop of corn, historic farming practices and dietary traditions drastically changed. Many tribes trace the origin of modern Native American cooking to this government-caused deprivation. From federal rations of powdered, canned, and other dried government-issued food, fry bread was born. The author. Fry bread is food. When I make fry bread, I start with a big bowl that can hold everything without spilling. I have a metal bowl so big I gave my newborn daughter baths in it. My recipe for fry bread uses cornmeal. Fry bread is a food of inheritance and family, and this is the legacy that was passed down to me. It may not be a surprise, not only for traditionalists, but for many natives who have never heard of such a thing. Perhaps the use of cornmeal in my recipe is a southern influence that reflects the blending of African American and Native American cultures in my family. In my opinion, this does not make my rendition of fry bread any less authentic, less indigenous, or less right than any other version. Even though fry bread is common to so many tribes, it can still be controversial. It's a highly subjective food. People simply love the fry bread they grew up with and are suspicious of other versions, like barbecue, pizza, cheesesteak, sushi, hummus, or kimchi. Feuds of food inevitably bring up the common refrain of, "What? What? No, this is." If there is one thing that all natives can agree about of fry bread, is that everyone else's version is wrong. Fry bread is shape. Some people may be familiar with fry bread that is flat, similar to a Mexican sopapilla, South Asian naan bread, or Middle Eastern pita bread. The fry bread I make is rounder and puffier, a mix between a hush puppy and a sourdough roll. I love the pancake kind of fry bread, but I also like the funny shaped kind that my aunts taught me to make. Some people may use a rolling pin to flatten the dough, and others may use their hands to pat it into shape. I use 2 spoons to shape the dough because it's sticky, and no two dough balls are the same. Sometimes they come out looking like the shape of Florida, and other times like a lopsided orange. They are all equally delicious. Just like people, there is no one shape, body type, shoe size that makes anyone better than anyone else. And for fry bread, it's the same. The most important thing is having fun and learning how to make something special with people that you love. Fry bread is sound. My father of the family handles the skillet. Note the seminal symbol tattooed onto his wrist. The large zigzags are lightning, and the smaller double-crossed letter T's are trees. Father steadies the pan of hot oil as the children await delicious food. They listen, smell, and hear the bread. To them, fry bread is like birthday cake or Halloween candy, a special treat to be cherished and savored. Yet, there are some natives who strongly oppose fry bread because it exacerbates existing health problems. For these critics, fry bread is an easy target for a much larger problem of being forced to deviate from traditional indigenous diets. Some, but not all communities, have no fresh market or a convenient place to buy fruits and vegetables. Fast food is plentiful, cheap, and unhealthy. Access to quality healthcare and medical facilities might be different in underserved areas, might even be difficult to find. Diabetes, obesity, and heart problems are long-standing problems. Fry bread as daily cuisine is no solution. Like the previously mentioned birthday cake, fry bread is not an every meal staple like naan or jasmine rice. It is best enjoyed in moderation. Even so, there aren't many healthy adaptations for fry bread, like baking instead of frying or replacing ingredients with low-calorie alternatives. So, in keeping with those that came before me, I adjusted it. To fry the dough, I prefer unrefined coconut oil, which tastes better than the traditional lard or shortening, and it fills the kitchen with a wonderful aroma that announces the arrival of something special. Fry bread is color. The population of Americans that identify as Native American is diverse and varied. Most people think Native Americans always have to have brown skin and black hair, but there is an enormous range of hair textures and skin colors. Just like the characters in this book, Native people may have blonde hair or black skin, tight cornrows, or a loose braid. This wide variety of faces reflects a history of intermingling between tribes and also with people of European, African, and Asian descent. The racial aspect of being Native American differs from political status of tribal membership, which is so different and so complicated across Indian country. Not all American Indians are enrolled as citizens of a tribal government. Some have never enrolled in any tribe, and some have been forcibly disenrolled. Additionally, each nation has different membership requirements based on blood and descent, which may be enough for one tribe, but prevents similarly situated applicants from obtaining citizenship in another. So what makes a person American Indian? Blood? Enrollment? Physical appearance? Cultural ties? People that identify as Native American come in all colors and shapes and live in urban and rural areas. And many love to eat fry bread. Fry bread is flavor. Everyone has a different opinion of what fry bread should be. Everyone's a critic. Just like a strong opinion of the best barbecue or pizza, tastes are deeply personal, like one's own identity. The way I learned how to make fry bread in Milwaukee, Oklahoma, was the only way to make fry bread. When I moved to Michigan in my mid-20s, all those Midwestern Chippewas let me know how wrong I was, and theirs was the only way. And it was also the best way. It literally is a matter of taste. Fry bread reflects the vast, deep diversity of Native American country, and there is no single way of making this special food. But it brings diverse indigenous communities together through a shared culinary and cultural experience, and that is the beauty of fry bread. The ceramic pot on the left page copies the geometric pattern commonly found on ceremonial sashes worn by the Seminoles around their waists or over their shoulders. These colorful zigzags may also be found on patchwork skirts, shawls, and jackets. Blues, reds, oranges, purples, greens, and yellows make a beautiful rainbow and patterns in these tribal fabrics and crafts. Fry bread is art. The handmade dolls and coil baskets featured on this spread are part of a rich, inherited history of both the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma and the Seminole Tribe of Florida. After the Great Depression, tribal members in Florida opened tourist villages and sold handicrafts as an alternative source of income during a period of economic insecurity. Enterprising Seminoles sold crafts, fabrics, keepsakes to visitors to the villages. Dolls dressed in traditional clothing were a signature souvenir. Doll making grew into a cultural tradition passed down from ancestors to their descendants. like a grandma teaching a grandkid. The doll bodies held by the children on the right page can be made from the fronds of the palmetto tree or sweetgrass leaves. The dolls may also have elaborate beadwork sewn together from tiny glass balls to form different patterns. Traditional Seminole patchwork designs are shown on the doll's clothing and also on the sitting woman's skirt, with bright stripes of all colors. The large baskets shown on the left page have many purposes: holding fruit, cleaning vegetables, hauling wood, protecting valuables, or anything else that could fit inside. Baskets may also be purely interesting to admire and share with others. Before the creators begin, they make sure they have plenty of leaves or fronds to weave into tight coils. The baskets may be colorfully decorated, either with paint or weaving different leaf shades into the pattern. The craft of basket weaving is also shared by coastal African American communities in the South, with whom the Seminoles have had a long and intertwined history. Fry bread is history. Native Americans are indigenous people, meaning they are descendants of the original inhabitants of the country we know as the United States. When Europeans first made contact, they were violent, bloody struggles for control of the land. Colonists stole property and killed people who lived here for thousands of years. In contrast to the amicable relations taught at school and celebrated at home every Thanksgiving, the vast majority of relations between Indian nations and the American government have been marked by war, genocide, and conflict. Antagonism, while not as violent, persists to the present day. Under President Andrew Jackson, the government evicted southeastern tribes from their homelands under the Indian Removal Act of 1830. American soldiers forced entire families out of their ancestral lands, took all of their belongings, and made them walk across the country to lands unseen in the West. This fateful resettlement, where thousands of people died along the way, was endured by many Native American nations, and to some it is known as the Trail of Tears. Removal and displacement of Native Americans occurred and is still occurring in every state in the country. In 2017, the Standing Rock Sioux protested the federal government's support of the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline on tribal land in North Dakota and surrounding states. Fry bread is place. The map shown on this spread goes beyond the borders of the United States. The lines you're used to seeing drawn between states and countries have been left out, since they are federal demarcations that came after the creation and pre-existence of tribal lands. Some Native Americans live on tribal land, and others live in cities. Fry bread is nation. When this book was published, there are 573 federally recognized Native American tribes and also 67 state-recognized tribes in the United States. In Canada, there are over 600. Recognition means that the United States government or state government has acknowledged the tribe as a sovereign entity. The recognition process is very long, and each tribe is required to prove that they have a shared history, a shared culture, a strong government, and a common origin, among other things. This can be very difficult since so many tribes have suffered from immense amounts of relocation and cultural stripping. Sometimes a group applies for federal and state recognition, but is denied by both, even though they are Native Americans whose ancestors have been in North America for thousands of years. When the personal opinion of being Native differs from the political opinion from being Native, it brings up hard questions about who and what counts as authentically Native American. In the spirit of inclusivity and a celebration of Native pride, the list in this book gives voice to indigenous nations and communities within the United States. This includes tribes like the Navajo and the Choctaw, smaller tribes like the Kickapoo and the Duckwater Shoshone, rancherias in California like Shingle Springs and Pineville, and the Alaskan Native villages like Quilingok and Mary's Igloo. This list also includes groups that are not successful in their attempts to achieve official status with the U.S. or state governments, like the Duwamish, or the little spell Chippewa. In the pages and the ends of this book, however, they are recognized. We researched and reached out to each nation listed here to confirm the common usage of their tribal name. We wanted to be as accurate as possible and include these tribes in our process. Fry bread is everything. Bread nourishes and comforts in so many cultures, religions, and communities around the world. It is synonymous speak of sustenance, survival. Dough, manna, money, and life. They are loaves and leavens, bagels and braids, crepes and cakes. They are communions meant to be shared and loved with others, because bread is not meant to be cooked for one. Fry bread is us. While so much of the United States federal policy has acted to weaken indigenous governments and undermine tribal sovereignty, Native nations continue to exist and demand recognition of their endurance and strength by the United States. Native America is not a past history of vanished people and communities. We are still here. We strengthen each other. If you look closely at the kitchen cabinet, you can see names and doodles etched into the side. Each of the names included are people who have been involved in the creation of this book, along with some family members. Juana's children, Ethan, Aiden, and Ava, handwrote their names. The picture hanging in the kitchen and also on the right of the recipe page is my Aunt Fanny, who taught me how to make fry bread her way without reservation. I hope you enjoyed learning more about fry bread and Native American culture. If you want to learn more, you can always go to your local library or learn more online. There's so much information out there, and there are so many different tribes and different cultures and foods to learn about. We could only do so much together. Anyway, hope you have a great day. Happy Native American History Month.